Hey everyone, welcome back to Tech Mechie. If you watched our Samsung A54 review, you may have caught the epic battle at the end between the A54 and the Pixel 6a. If you're thinking about picking up one of these phones, let's run down the differences between them. No weapons, just words. Let's start with one of the most popular features of smartphones, the cameras. The Pixel 6a and the A54 both have wide and ultra-wide rear cameras, but the A54 also has a macro camera. While the Samsung seems to have the advantage in terms of raw megapixels, you can see that doesn't automatically make the A54's pictures better in all scenes. The A54 has a tendency to over-brighten some objects in bright scenes, while the 6a's shots have a less dynamic range. The A54 also oversaturates some colors, particularly red, and some details can be lost from over-brightened and oversaturated shots. In this shot, the 6a muted the actual color of the red paint slightly, while the A54 boosted the color too much. Overall, the photos taken with the Pixel 6a gave a more neutral balance of brightness and color, while the A54 pushed things a bit to make the images pop. It's up to the user which type of shots they prefer. These phones have some camera settings you can play with to try and get the look you want, but these are photos taken with default settings, to show what you can get when you take your phone out of your pocket to take a quick picture. Night photos are acceptable on both phones. In the A54 shots, the bright areas are a little washed out compared to the 6a. But in the A54 picture, you can also see more details in dark areas, such as the outline of the building in the background, and there appears to be more detail in the road as well. But bright areas look better defined in the 6a shot. You can see in these shots the 6a appears to have a slightly warmer temperature than the A54. Also, the A54's night shots required more time to process certain scenes, meaning you have to hold the camera still for several seconds longer when taking a picture. You can shoot video in Full HD as well as 4K. But both phones will get hot after a few minutes of 4K shooting. Here you can see me running with image stabilization off on both phones. You can see the video is especially choppy on the Pixel 6a when running without stabilization. I recommend always keeping it on. Here you can see the improvement in the running while filming video with the stabilization turned on both phones. The A54's third camera is a macro camera, allowing it to pull off in-focus close-up shots of small objects that the 6a can't do. Although I appreciate Samsung including a macro camera on the A54, I think the majority of buyers would rather have a telephoto lens instead, that would allow zooming in on subjects that are farther away without losing detail. Next, let's look at the differences between these two AMOLED displays. The A54's display is slightly larger, although the Samsung's more rounded corners do make the display sizes pretty close when measuring diagonally. The A54's display is capable of an adaptive refresh rate up to 120Hz, which makes scrolling and swiping through images look very fluid and smooth. It's a feature that can drain the battery faster, but you can switch the refresh rate to 60Hz in the A54's display settings if needed. The Pixel 6a's comes locked at 60Hz, so if this is an important feature for you, the A54 could hold the advantage here. The A54 also continues Samsung's tradition of very saturated colors. Even in the natural color mode, the colors are still oversaturated. You can see the video I made with Kalman measurements on this display, if you're interested in that kind of data. The 6a's display has more natural colors. The measurements I took showed very good accuracy overall. If color accuracy is important to you, you may be happier with the 6a's display. The A54's display can get brighter than the 6a's, and it is much easier to use when outside in bright sunlight. The 6a's screen is still usable when out in the sun, but not as clear as the A54's. I found battery life to be pretty similar between both phones. Even though the Pixel 6a has a slightly smaller battery than the A54, I managed to get nearly 2 days of battery with typical usage. I managed a little less on the A54, about a day and a half total. Maybe the 6a's processor is a little more battery efficient, or the A54's display is a little more power hungry. The A54 offers 25-watt wired charging, compared to the 6a's 18-watt wired charging. So it's no surprise that the A54 manages to charge faster than the 6a, and can reach full charge 30 minutes faster. Neither of these phones has wireless charging. As far as performance goes, both phones easily handle everyday tasks like web browsing, watching movies, and playing most games. The most popular streaming apps are available on both phones, and movies and shows look great on both. However, images will look slightly different. The A54's display is a little more saturated with certain colors, particularly red, and I also observed better shadow detail on the 6a's display. Sound quality was good on both phones, however the A54 speakers can get noticeably louder with the volume turned up. One observation I think is worth noting, I could not get Amazon Prime Video to stream content in HD on the 6A. I think this has been observed on several Pixel phones, and it appears to be due to some unresolved issue between Google and Amazon. So heads up to anyone who values HD performance on the mobile Prime Video app. Both phones are capable of playing most games, but for more demanding games you may have to lower the picture quality settings. I also felt both phones heat up when playing higher end games, but it never got uncomfortable and I took cooldown breaks. Neither phone is designed to be a hardcore gaming device, so as long as you keep your expectations reasonable, you should have a good gaming experience with the 6A and the A54. Both phones are available with 128GB of storage and 6GB of RAM. Some countries also have an A54 model that has 256GB of storage with 8GB of RAM, if you're looking for an option that might get you some extra years of performance. The A54 is the only phone out of these two to offer expandable storage. You can add up to 1TB. The Tensor chip found in the Pixel 6a is a little more powerful than the A54's Exynos 1380, but for everyday tasks and typical app usage, you probably wouldn't notice much of a difference between the two. Moving back to the outside, let's look at build quality. The Pixel 6a and the A54 are both representatives of their brand's current styles. The A54 has the 3 vertical camera array you see in their entire lineup of phones, while the 6a showcases Google's horizontal camera stripe seen in its Pixel line. They're both good-looking phones, and have a solid enough feel to them. Both phones also have an IP67 rating for keeping out dust and water. Samsung gave the A54 some premium treatment, with an all-glass back that looks and feels great. The siding and buttons are still plastic, but overall it's a great-looking phone. The 6a has a nice aluminum frame running down its sides. The back is made from a glossy plastic that might pass for glass from a distance, but it feels like plastic when being held. The top and bottom portions of the back panels are slightly different shades of the same color, which adds some style to the design. The A54 is a little larger, with rounder corners than the 6a. It's also a little heavier, but the difference is pretty negligible. Google and Samsung have pledged 5 years of security updates for these phones. The 6a will get security updates until July of 2027, and the A54 will get updates until April of 2028. The Pixel 6a is also guaranteed at least 3 Android version updates, and Samsung has offered 4 for the A54. The A54 comes with some pre-installed apps that are common on Samsung phones. Some people consider these apps bloatware. The good news is it looks like many of these can be uninstalled, but some can only be disabled. One feature of Samsung's user interface that some users may appreciate is the ability to remove the search bar from the home screen. I know some Pixel users think that the Google search bar is an eyesore, and some users are even willing to install a third-party launcher just to be able to hide it. Both phones have under-display fingerprint sensors for unlocking, and the A54 has a facial recognition option. But that's about it for the main differences between these two phones. The Pixel 6a did have a pretty big price advantage a while back when it was on sale for $250 to $300, but now the price is back in the same area as the A54. Both of these phones offer some impressive performance at a competitive price. Even though they don't offer the type of performance available from flagship phones, the capabilities of the 6a and A54 should be more than enough for the everyday smartphone user. And if neither of these phones have won you over, there are plenty of other options out there. Google should be announcing official specs for the 7a in a few days, and some higher-end 2022 phones, like the Pixel 7 and S21 Fan Edition, are also competing in this $300 to $600 price range. And that pretty much wraps up this comparison video. Let us know in the comments below what you think about these two phones. And if you own one, what's your experience been with it so far? Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.